Okay, so one of the things that we I want to highlight over my years of working in female cricket and men's cricket, to be fair, and I see the disparity between the two departments. Often my understanding with making an inclusive environment so that girls do feel welcome, but also have an opportunity to sort of express themselves. And this is again one for coaches, and also one for administrators, but also clubs who are out there, is if we can sort of try and put some of these aspects into play, you might find that you get a few more girls, one, staying in the game for a little bit longer, but also two, actually taking it up as a professional sport, which is what we want to do in order to get the quality of our cricket at national level as strong as possible, so we can compete with the best out there. So some ideas, obviously working over the last sort of 10, 15 years in Lancashire, working with the England Women's Academy, working in UAE as a head of cricket, and also working with the UAE national teams. The girls that are coming through there, and having 4 or 5 players on my academy program. I can tell you that some of these elements are the softer skills, and these have a huge factor in trying to get more girls playing the game. So I'll just go through these, and then you can, hopefully some might resonate with you. Some of you guys might already be doing this, and if you could just take 1 or 2 away, to make better for next year. Hopefully, we're making a more inclusive environment. So, some of the girls, they do want to be treated like everybody else, like the boys. They want to have the same effort and commitment towards their coaching session. So if it's a strong session, they want to be given a strong message. They want to be put through the challenges. They want to have a regular structured coaching program which is in place. They don't want to be the second mentality of the structure in the club. They want to be treated equally. So if you can use your language accordingly, or use your structure accordingly to put them first, you might find that they will buy into the program a little bit more. The regular offering of structured sessions needs to be consistent, and it needs to fit in with the girls' timings of their, a little bit around their social calendars, or their studies, or their opportunities of everything that they're doing outside of cricket, or their responsibilities within work, home life, and often, family life. So that is something that needs to be, really considered when you're sort of selecting your coaching sessions. The area around mixed sessions is, yes, females like to be within their own group, but at some point, in order to challenge them, you can have similar sessions with, say, the under-19s or under-17s, where it's safe and it's progressive, but it's not over challenging or done in a harmful way. If you can create that environment and create that challenge, create that opportunity, you will find that the girls might progress a little bit quickly, and also their learning will progress a little bit more in terms of what good cricket looks like. Around the kit, obviously one brand, one club. I often see where girls are dressed in pink, and all outfits are pink and stuff like that, and that's great. But majority of my experience is the girls actually want to be dressed the same as what the boys are, because they're part of a club, not part of a team where it's just a girls' team. So there's a difference in strategy and approach. But again, speak to the girls in terms of trying to find out what their branding looks like, whether they want to be all out and all different, or whether they want to be part of a club. Which often you can see the difference in the representation as well. I've spoken about highlighted there, the changing facilities, make it inclusive, and often when sometimes I see girls, players are getting changed in fields and stuff like that. You almost have to value the importance of getting change for females. A changing environment for them. And obviously with no time restrictions, we often sort of get there late, or teams could be warming up very quickly, etc., but especially in the cool down as well, and they might be going on to something else, a family event, etc. So just understand the timing element in terms of the changing facility as well as what the time is required. The language that we use for the girls, often it's can be very crucial in terms of trying to keep the girls involved. It's a universal language that we're trying to use. It's around sport. It's not directed to, she did this, she did that. It should be quite universal about cricket. And often you find is, speaking to a lot of girls, is that they get disheartened by the fact that they, it's a target on the individual as opposed to the sport and the athlete. So if we can speak about athletes more in the terminology as opposed to she or this young girl, etc., etc. So it is about your language to try and get people involved a little bit more. The quality of the session, so a balance between technical coaching, but also comfort in the environment, but also challenging in the task. So that's an area that needs to be challenged and looked at, but also for coaches to provide comfort, support, give some technical input, which is understanding, not too challenging, but also progressive in terms of the learning. Coaches. So this is one for coaches being involved in the session. It's about mixed experiences, and it's not around gender defined. So often we have the notion, or more female coaches should be coaching women's cricket. Yeah, that's great to get females involved in cricket, but actually in a high performance environment or a club cricket environment, you often see more male coaches working in there. And that can also have its challenges, but can also be progressive in its advancements. What I would say is trying to work with your best experienced coaches and also complement developing the next generation of cricket coaches from the opposite gender as well. So allow them to have that experience and what that looks like. Obviously, equipment, make it available, make it hygienic, clean for them to sort of be involved in. Females are more particular about hygiene than some male environments, in my experience. And the timing of the session, so social engagements and educational requirements, especially around studies and exams and universities and A levels and stuff like that, is very, very important to consider, especially when things are happening after sort of the age of 15, 16, 17. Social engagements, the timing of that, getting more involved with friends and social outings and stuff like that is very important. So it can be a detrimental effect to getting more girls involved. So just be careful on the timings and consider that when you're planning your sessions. And this element of girls first, not a secondary mentality. If you're going to be a progressive club in domestic cricket, I think we have to have the element of girls first. And everything about that needs to be driven by the culture that we sort of gonna adopt in Sweden. So it has to be not a secondary approach. It has to be first. The culture has to be understanding of the surroundings. We have to be able to be acceptable and approachable, but also understand that some of the players from a girls' environment might not be at the level that you expect from the same age from a boy's perspective. So we have to be mindful in their transition, their cricket development, but also the non-linear development. So it could be their sporting development, their bodies. I've put in there that the menstrual cycle is hugely important in women's cricket, but often has a huge impact in performance, which might not be as clear to coaches, especially if you're not from the same gender, and how that affects sleep, fatigue, performance, rest, and everything else that goes with the human cycle. So obviously it's an underlining rule, but it needs to be addressed and accepted that is what happens. And sometimes some of the girls might just be having a bad day, purely because of not what's happening on the pitch, but what's actually happening within themselves. So something to be mindful of. I've put social engagement sessions need to be considered. Girls feel more comfortable around social environments, inclusive sessions, in order to get them to come out of bring their personality out a little bit more, get to understand their behaviors a little bit more, and then hopefully you might see a different side to them, obviously, when they're playing. And I think that's hugely important. And often, the last one I've got on there is often we see, the communication breakdown to keep more girls involved in club sessions. What we see is, the parent-coach relationship sometimes can be either distant or can be, quite offensive, or can be quite, broad in that sense. So what I would probably say is, if in a coaching environment you have a team manager that can also support the communication to the parent, because often the parents that are bringing the girls down are probably going to be, more than likely, in my experience, it's been the mother that brings the daughter down. But I mean, again, it needs to be an approach where we have an opportunity for the key messages to go back out to the parents. Now, that might be a newsletter, that might be a regular text message, that might be an appraisal meeting, that might be a regular phone on the chat. It can be a number of different things, but often what I found is the parent sometimes doesn't want to go to the coach because it might feel like it's intrusive, or it could be a detrimental effect to the team selection and stuff like that. There might be an element for coaches to have a second person who potentially could be the middle gap or the bridge between the two. So these are just ideas of trying to make your environment a little bit more inclusive, especially around domestic cricket, to get more girls involved. I'm happy to hear if there's other areas that have worked really well, and I can keep building a list like this, to sort of send out to clubs. So hopefully we can work on that together. So yes,